What's up, everyone? My name is Saahil, and welcome back to my channel. And we are ending a rather tough March all over the world. I think we've been overtaken by the pandemic of COVID-19 so badly that I feel it's been one of the toughest beginnings of a year. Forget March, I think to begin 2020, which is completely new decade on such a pandemic note that matter is just rather disturbing, and it's a wake up call for a lot of us. I think for I think everybody, all 7 billion of us, that there is something seriously wrong with our world. But it's good that I think most of us are working in solidarity. All of us have started maintaining social distancing. Hopefully, if you're not, please do that already. And that's one of the best ways we can control the spreading of this virus, and of course clean your hands and everything. But yeah, it was also a good time to sit down, think about certain things in life, read up, and watch a lot of films and a lot of TV shows. So let's begin my March favorites. Okay, first up are the only two products that I got this month. These are the Nykaa Whipped with Love moisturizers. Also, why I talk about these moisturizers is because the amount of times we've been washing our hands, right? I'm anyway a germaphobe, so I anyway wash hands a lot. And with Corona, I've been washing hands like a zillion times a day, which also takes out the moisture, right? So these two moisturizers have been lifesavers along with my sanitizer and my hand wash. This is Nykaa Whipped with Love French Lavender and Honey, and this is Magnolia and White Tea. And all you have to do is apply a little bit, like that much, and it spreads across the entire hand so well. Like you saw the amount that I put, and I swear my hand is completely moisturized. I had dry hands and I feel nicely nourished. And yeah, these are great. Now, the first movie I watched before we started self-quarantining ourselves, especially in Maharashtra and in India, was Thappad. Now, Thappad is, I think, one of the most sensitively made films on domestic abuse I've seen in the recent times. Every line, every dialogue in the film is so well written. Every dialogue puts forth a message. I think it's a very, very layered film. It's super evolved for, I think, some people, unfortunately. But I hope most of the people who watch it get what Anubhav Sinha is trying to tell in his direction. And I think the movie is just brilliant. It was a much needed, I like to call it the anti-Kabir Singh we needed. A Kabir Singh which normalized a slap and say, oh, this is unconditional love. You can slap each other if you love each other unconditionally, which is bullshit. I think this was a much needed film. So I think Thappad is one film you have to watch. You can't watch it right now, but wait for it once it streams on one of the streaming channels, and I think it's worth a watch. Okay, next up is ZEE5's Barot House. Now, ZEE5 has been constantly surprising me for the good, left, right, and center. Again and again and again, I see amazing content on ZEE5, which I don't know why. At least I don't meet people who are talking about it so much. Now, Barot House is a psychological thriller about this family where there are, I think, 3 children, and the 2 daughters have kind of, been murdered. Now, the whole thing is about trying to find who the murderer is, and it happens to be in the house. Now, there is constantly a blame game, and there's this whole father-son relationship, which is, they love each other, but it's completely torn. Just watch it. Okay, next up is a very, very interesting film. It's called Curtiz. It's on Netflix. It's based on Michael Curtiz, who directed Casablanca. And the film is about the same. It kind of documents the life of Michael Curtiz as to what were the problems they had to go through while in the production of Casablanca in 1942. It's a black and white film, which was great. It's very rare to come. I think the last black and white film I watched in the modern times was The Artist, I think, which was in 2011. And this movie is just crazy. Michael Curtiz was such a crazy guy that if you look at the film, you're like, wow, like now you kind of get it why Casablanca has become like a cult film and a classic. all over these years because that guy was crazy. So just this movie is worth a watch. Okay, next film is a very, very sweet one. It's a Hindi film by Netflix. It's a Netflix original called Yeh Ballet. And it's about it's a true story about these socioeconomically underprivileged boys who go on and, learn ballet. They come from very, very underprivileged backgrounds. And in fact, I think one of them is Muslim. I think both of them are Muslims, which is not to say that that's a problem, but the father comes from a very, very narrow-mindedness, right? He feels that men are not supposed to do this or men are not supposed to dance or whatever. And these guys today are professional Royal Academy ballet dancers. So it's their journey as to how they were trained and how they became, such great dancers and get to realize their dreams. Okay, next up we have TV shows. First up, YouTube originals, Glad You Asked. Now this is one of a kind show, right? It's clearly for the curious mind, and I have clearly been bitten by curiosity in life. So this show is clearly for a person like me, or maybe like you if you're a curious person like me. Now Glad You Asked is produced, I think, by Vox. And it's a bunch of, 20-ish episodes, and every episode is about 20-30 minutes. And it answers like very, very simple but complicated questions. Why do we cry? Can we really, really survive on Mars? And how does the internet work? So Vox actually goes deep into researching and, explaining very well as to how these things actually happen. And it's very nicely produced. It's very simply drawn for the viewer to actually understand how these things, kind of exist and happen. So that is a brilliant, brilliant show. It's called Glad You Asked. Please watch it on YouTube Originals. Okay, next up is a show on Hotstar I had been waiting for a while. It's called Special Ops. Now, why I had been waiting for it? It's because it's directed and created by Neeraj Pandey. And I think he's done a very, very good job. There is KK Menon in the lead along with Karan Thakur. And there's Vinay Pathak, and there are a bunch of other people. And it basically traces the story of this one mastermind terrorist who planned most of the major attacks, I think, in India, starting from the 2001 Parliament attacks to to the Mumbai 26/11 attacks. And for the last 19 years, from 2001 to 2020, has been, on the run, and the Indian government doesn't seem to believe that he even exists. And KK is the only person who believes and knows that it's true. So it's their search over the 19 years as to how they kind of are after this man and how they catch him. So Special Ops, I think, it's good. It's a good. You'll binge watch it. It's not out of the world, but it's worth a watch. You can just take your popcorn, sit on it, and you'll have a good time while you're quarantining. Now on Z5, Mentalhood. It's Karishma Kapoor's debut for a web series. Now, that's exactly kind of technically why I watched it. I used to really like Karishma Kapoor back in the day. And it has Sandhya Mridul, who I love. It has Curtiz, who I love. It has Dino Moria's return, which was interesting. And it also has Shilpa Shukla of the Chak De India fame, who was who was against Shah Rukh Khan in most of the film. So she's there, and so the cast was kind of really intriguing. I don't like the direction so much. I feel it's a little weak in terms of its direction, but why it's one of my favorites is because at the heart and soul of the show is very, very, it's very, very well intended. It's about motherhood and hence mentalhood, and not only motherhood. I think I would like to call it more like parenthood, because Dino Moria is a single father, Shruti Seth is a single mother. There's multiple dynamics of this entire thing happening. It's rather masaledar because clearly Ekta Kapoor has created it. It just tucks to your heart. You can just, nicely hug your pillow, tuck yourself in your duvet, and just, watch it and just feel happy. And also, I think, grateful to our parents, especially our mothers. And it's just a very sweet show. Okay, finally, we have Netflix. First up, Rise of Empires, Ottoman. Now, this is about the rise of the Ottoman Empire and how Sultan Mehmed II took over Turkey, Istanbul, which back then was called Constantinople. Now, Constantinople was it's called the Red Apple, and it was in the center of the world. So it became a very, very big city and a very important city. And it was said that if you rule Constantinople, you will kind of rule the entire world. And it was also the capital of the Roman Eastern Roman Empire. Now, for 1100 years, Constantinople has been with the Romans, and about 22 to 23 armies at different points of time, I think from the Ottoman Empire, have tried to take over Constantinople, but have always failed. Now, how Mehmed II decides and, goes on for his conquest for about, I think, 2 to 3 months. And it's one of the most difficult conquests, I think, recorded in the history of the world. And then how he wins it. And for the next 300 years, the Ottoman Empire kind of becomes the largest empire. But the action is so good. It's really, really engraving. Like, I started watching and I couldn't stop. Watch it if you're especially like a history geek like me. Okay, next up is a stand-up special called Quarter Life Crisis by Taylor Tomlinson. Now, I merely watched the show because I was like, yes, there was midlife crisis. When I was studying psychology, we studied about, midlife crisis. And quarter life crisis, honestly, is a thing in today's age. At 25, 26, I have felt, what is happening with me? I feel, torn between these things and all that. And how Taylor Tomlinson actually just puts it across, she's hilarious. It was funny because it's actually super relatable as well because, I'm literally in through quarter of my life. So that is hilarious. Okay, next up is Self-Made. Now, Self-Made is it's based on a real life story of the first African-American wealthiest woman of the United States of America. She was a washerwoman, I think, and she had like a disorder in her skull, because of which she started losing her hair. And during the course of finding solution for herself, made the first hair shooting formula and yada yada yada, and started like a whole beauty company and became the wealthiest woman, I think, back in the 1900s. It's just so heartwarming. It's so inspiring, and it's just you just feel that look at this woman, and back almost a century ago, more than a century ago, she did this. Just brilliant. And last but not the least is a rather serious show. It's called The Trials of Gabriel Fernandez. Now, let me just warn you guys, this is not for the faint-hearted. Now, Gabriel Fernandez is again a documentary about this case in 2013 about Gabriel Fernandez, who was an 8-year-old child whose mother called the 911 and said, my child is not breathing. And when, the trial started happening, his own biological mother and the biological mother's boyfriend kind of, abused him physically, which finally led to his death. And it kind of questions the authorities which, which look at child protection and how did this, go through for years without getting noticed by the child support services. And it's a really, really hard-hitting show. It is just a limited series, and it was scary, and it was very, very terrifying. But if you can bear with it, it's a brilliant, brilliant documentary. Watch it. So guys, that was my quarantine edition. Hopefully only volume 1 of my March favorites. I hope I don't have to do volume 2 in April. Hopefully we'll all be healthy and safe, and hopefully this will all be behind us very, very soon. Please stay safe, please stay healthy, keep washing your hands, self-isolate yourself. I've given you a huge list. Keep binge watching them, and comment below with your favorites, especially shows and things, and what have you been doing during your self-quarantine. Check out my last video here, subscribe here, and I will see you guys soon. Bye-bye and stay safe.